The Grand Hall of the Galactic Coalition was the largest room had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high that clouds of light floated near the top, and the walls were made of something that looked like glass but felt alive when he walked past. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the space. Some had scales, some had shells, some had bodies made of light itself. All of them wore armor that shone like stars. Walked alone through the great doors. His boots made heavy sounds on the crystal floor. Every step echoed in the sudden quiet that spread around him like a wave. He knew what they saw. His armor was old. The chest plate had a crack running from shoulder to hip. The left arm guard was held together with metal wire. Burn marks covered the back, and the helmet had a dent so deep that the inside padding showed through. The whole suit was gray where it had once been black, faded by years of sun and war and time. A warrior near the entrance laughed first. The sound was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. He stood 8 feet tall, his green scales shining under armor that looked like liquid silver. "Look," he said to his companions, "the humans sent their garbage collector." More laughter followed. A group of clicked their mandibles in amusement. Their armor was made of something that shifted colors with every movement, technology so advanced it seemed like magic. One of them, an older delegate named, leaned toward another and said, "Perhaps they misunderstood the invitation. This is the honor trials, not a museum exhibit." Kept walking. His face showed nothing. Near the center of the hall, a human woman in diplomatic clothes was waiting for him. Her name was, and her job was to represent Earth at this gathering. She had spent 3 years learning alien customs and building relationships. She had worked very hard to get humanity noticed by the Coalition. And now she watched a soldier in broken armor walk toward her while the entire galaxy laughed. She met him halfway, her voice low and tight. "What is this?" Stopped. Up close she could see his eyes. They were tired but steady, like stones at the bottom of a deep river. "This is what they sent," he said. "They sent you looking like that, to the honor trials." Looked at his armor again. Now she could see more details. Patches where metal had been melted and reformed. Places where different pieces had been welded together that did not match. A symbol carved into the chest that she did not recognize. "Do you know how important this is? Every species judges others by their warriors, and you show up in something that looks like it lost a fight with a trash compactor." "It won," said. Blinked. "What?" "The trash compactor. It lost." He said it without smiling, without any sign that he was joking. "My armor won." Before she could respond, a loud horn sounded through the hall. The registration ceremony was beginning. Commander stood on a raised platform at the far end. He was the host of this year's trials, a general whose armor was covered in battle honors. Hundreds of small symbols marked his victories, his kills, his campaigns. Light reflected off him like he was a second sun. "Warriors of the Coalition," his voice boomed. "You have come to prove your worth. The honor trials test strength, speed, tactics, and will. Only those who pass will earn the right to call themselves champions of their species." One by one, warriors stepped forward to register. Each one's armor was scanned by floating machines that recorded their equipment levels. The results appeared on a giant display for everyone to see. The champions registered first. Their armor ratings were in the highest category, advanced class. The followed, their color-shifting suits earning similar marks. Species after species stepped up, and the display showed the same thing: advanced, elite, superior. Then it was turn. He walked to the scanner without hesitation. The machine circled him, lights blinking as it read his equipment. The hall went quiet again, but this time it was the quiet of people waiting for a joke to finish. The display flickered. Numbers appeared. The category label took a moment to load, as if the system was confused. "Obsolete class." The laughter this time was louder. Clicking sounded almost like applause. "Obsolete," he announced to those around him. "The humans brought a relic. Perhaps they wish to donate it to our history archives after he falls in the first trial." Commander raised one clawed hand. The laughter faded, though smiles remained on many faces. He looked down with eyes that held no respect, only the mild interest someone might give to an unusual insect. "Human," said, "your equipment does not meet the standard for these trials. By rights, I should deny your entry." His heart dropped. 3 years of work, 3 years of fighting for humanity's place at this table. and it would end here in humiliation because Earth's military had sent a soldier in broken armor. Looked up at the commander. He did not plead. He did not explain. He simply waited, studied him for a long moment. Then the commander made a sound that might have been a laugh. "But I will allow it," he said. "The trials can always use amusement, and it will be educational for the other species to see how the humans struggle." More chuckling spread through the hall. Nodded once, then turned and walked away from the platform. Caught up to him near one of the side chambers. Her face was red with frustration and embarrassment. "You need to tell me what is happening," she demanded. "Why did Command send you? Why that armor? There has to be a reason." Stopped at a window that looked out into space. Stars filled the darkness more than anyone could count. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were all the places he had fought, all the people he had lost. "They sent what they had," he said again. "I brought what I earned." "What does that mean?" He turned to look at her. For just a moment, something moved behind his eyes, something old and heavy. "Every mark on this armor is a story, every dent, every burn, every crack. I could have worn something new, something clean and shining, but that would not be honest." "Honest about what?" "About what it costs." He looked back at the stars. "The other warriors here, they wear their armor like decoration, like medals they gave themselves. My armor is not decoration. It is a record of every fight I survived, every friend I could not save, every time I should have died but did not." Did not know what to say. She had read his file before he arrived. Most of it was blacked out, classified at the highest levels. She had assumed he was nobody important, a last-minute choice because no one better was available. Now she was not so sure. "The trials start tomorrow," she said finally. "Whatever your reasons, you need to survive long enough for them to matter." Nodded. "I always do." He walked away, his damaged armor catching the light from 1,000 alien suns. Tomorrow he would face warriors with technology that made his equipment look like ancient history. Tomorrow they would expect him to fail, but had learned something in all his years of fighting, something that no amount of technology could teach. The best armor was not the kind you wore on your body. It was the kind you built inside yourself, piece by piece, battle by battle, loss by loss. And his armor, the real armor, had never been broken. Not once. The combat arena was not a single place. It was a machine that could become any place. Mountains rose from flat ground in seconds. Forests grew from nothing. Cities built themselves and then crumbled into ruins. The warriors who entered never knew what world they would find. Stood at the entrance gate with 40 other fighters. They came from 12 different species, each one representing their people's finest soldiers. Their armor hummed with power. Energy shields flickered around them like second skins. Weapons charged with soft blue light. Neural links connected their minds directly to their equipment, making thought and action the same thing. Beside, a young warrior named watched him with all 4 of her eyes. She was smaller than the other, her shell a lighter shade of purple. Her mandibles moved in what might have been curiosity. "Your systems are failing," she said. Her voice was like wind through dry leaves. "I can hear your power unit struggling from here." Adjusted a strap on his chest plate. Something clicked and sparked inside. "It does that." "How do you plan to fight with broken equipment?" "The same way I always fight." He did not look at her. His eyes were fixed on the arena doors. Carefully, the horn sounded. The doors opened. The warriors charged forward into a world of rock and fire. The first trial was a survival run. Automated drones filled the arena, each one programmed to hunt and eliminate. They were not meant to kill, but their weapons could cause real pain and could disable armor systems. The goal was simple: reach the other side of the arena while destroying as many drones as possible. Speed and efficiency would determine rankings. The alien warriors scattered into optimal formations. Their armor fed them tactical data through their neural links. They moved like dancers, each step calculated by computers that processed thousands of decisions per second. Plasma shields deflected incoming fire. Gravity boots let them leap over obstacles. Targeting systems found drones before they could even attack. Ran differently. He moved from cover to cover, pressing his body against rocks, sliding into shadows. His armor had no shields. His boots had no special abilities. His helmet's tracking system had died 2 years ago, and he had never fixed it. He saw the world through his own eyes, heard the drones through his own ears, made decisions with his own mind. A drone appeared above him, its weapon charged with a high whine, rolled left before it fired. The blast hit the ground where he had been. He came up throwing a rock, a simple stone he had picked up during his run. It struck the drone's sensor array. The machine spun, confused, and was already moving, already gone. Ahead, a warrior in silver armor was tearing through drones like they were made of paper. His power fists crushed them 3 at a time. His shield absorbed hits without even flickering. He was a machine of war, perfect and efficient. Watched him for 1 second. Then he looked at the terrain around him. The arena had created a canyon here, narrow walls rising on both sides. There was going straight through, trusting his armor to handle whatever came. Went up! He climbed the canyon wall with his hands and feet, finding holds that his eyes picked out faster than any computer could. His damaged gloves sparked against the rock. One of his boot's ankle joints screamed with a metal sound. But he climbed, and he climbed fast because he had climbed walls like this 100 times before, in places where there were no gravity boots, no power assists, nothing but flesh and will and the knowledge that falling meant dying. At the top, he ran along the canyon rim. Drones rose to meet him. He kicked the first one over the edge before it could fire. He grabbed the second one and used it as a shield against the third. When they both exploded, he was already jumping to the next section of rock. Below, the warrior reached a bottleneck. 20 drones waited there, hidden in an ambush. His armor handled it, but it took time. His ranking dropped with every second. Past him without the alien ever knowing he was there. The finish line was a glowing barrier at the arena's far end. Warriors crossed it one by one, their times recorded, their scores calculated. The finished first, their color-shifting armor making them nearly invisible to the drones. The champions came next, their raw power overwhelming everything in their path. Crossed in the middle of the group. His time was not impressive, his drone kills were average. The scoreboard placed him exactly where everyone expected, nowhere special. But watching from the observation deck, noticed something that the numbers did not show. "Pull up his damage report," she said to the station's computer. The display changed. Every warrior's armor recorded the hits they had taken, the damage they had absorbed. They had taken 7 hits, all blocked by shields. They had taken 32 hits, their heavy armor barely noticing. Some warriors had taken over 100 impacts, their advanced systems healing the damage in real time. Damage report was empty. 0 hits taken. Stared at the number. In an arena full of weapons, surrounded by drones designed to find and strike targets, wearing armor with no shields, no cloaking, no defensive technology of any kind, had not been hit once. "How is that possible?" she whispered. On Earth, in a military command center thousands of light years away, a soldier named was watching the same feed. He was young, barely out of training, and he had been assigned to monitor the trials as part of his education. "Sir," he said to his commanding officer, "you need to see this." The officer looked at the screen, at empty damage report, at the recording of him moving through the arena like water through rocks, always in the right place, never where the danger was. "I see it," the officer said. "How did he do that? His armor is falling apart. He has no tech support, no shields, nothing." The officer was quiet for a moment. "Do you know why soldiers exist, Private?" "No, sir." "Because for a long time humans did not have shields. We did not have neural links or gravity boots or armor that could heal itself. We had metal and guns and our own bodies, and we fought anyway. We fought things bigger than us, stronger than us, better equipped than us. And some of us, the ones who survived, they learned something that no amount of technology can teach." "What's that, sir?" "How to not be where the bullet is going." The officer turned back to the screen. "Is not trying to win these trials. He is trying to show them what we are, what we had to become just to survive long enough to reach the stars." Back on the station, the warriors gathered in a common area. Most of them ignored. His average score made him unimportant. A few laughed about the human who had barely kept up, but found him sitting alone, cleaning his damaged armor with a cloth. The metal beneath the dirt was covered in scratch marks and old burns. "You took no damage," she said. "Did not look up. No, that should not be possible. The drones were everywhere. Their targeting was perfect. Warriors with full shields still got hit multiple times. Their targeting was perfect, agreed. But perfect targeting only works if you are where they expect you to be. Sat down across from him, her 4 eyes blinked in sequence. My people have fought wars for 10,000 years. We have developed armor that can predict enemy movements 5 seconds into the future. We have weapons that fire before the target even knows it is in danger. And you, with that broken equipment, avoided every single attack through what? Luck. Finally looked at her. Where I come from, he said, the armor is the last thing keeping you alive. If you rely on it, you die. You learn to read the battlefield, to feel where danger is before it arrives, to move like you are already dead, because then you have nothing left to fear. That is not a strategy. That is desperation. Yes, he went back to cleaning his armor. It is. Humans have been desperate for a very long time. It is how we learn to fight things we should never have beaten. It is how we are still here, even though the galaxy gave us nothing except a small planet and the will to survive. It was quiet for a moment. Around them, other warriors celebrated their scores, compared their equipment, made plans for the next trial. Tomorrow is the tactical challenge, she said finally. They will test more than just survival. They will test how you think. Nodded. Good. Good. You have no neural link, no combat computer, no tactical AI. How will you compete against minds that can process 1,000,000 calculations per second? He put down his cloth and looked at her again. There was something in his eyes now, something that had not been there before. It was not anger or pride. It was patience. The patience of someone who had been underestimated many times and had learned to use it. The same way I always do, he said. I will think like a human. Did not understand what that meant, but something in his voice made her believe him. And for the first time since the trials began, she wondered if the jokes about the human in broken armor might stop being funny very soon. The memorial wing was a quiet place. It sat at the edge of the station, where the walls turned to windows and the stars seemed close enough to touch. Here warriors came to remember. Here they displayed the honors their armor had earned. Every species had different traditions. The carved symbols into their plates, one mark for every enemy killed. Their champions wore armor so covered in marks that the original metal could barely be seen. They embedded small crystals into their shells, each one holding a recorded memory of a battle won. Some species painted their armor in colors that told stories. Others added pieces from fallen enemies, building their equipment into monuments of conquest. Tonight, the warriors had gathered for a ceremonial display. One by one, they would present their armor's honors to the assembly. It was tradition. It was pride. It was a chance to show the galaxy what they had accomplished. Stood in the back of the crowd, watching. A champion stepped forward first. His armor was covered in so many kill marks that they overlapped like scales. He spoke the names of campaigns that had destroyed entire civilizations. The crowd made sounds of approval. Came next. The delegate's armor held 200 crystals, each one glowing with stolen memories. He described conquests that had brought 3 species under control. More approval, more respect. One by one, the warriors showed their honors. Each display was more impressive than the last. Technology, power, victory after victory. Then someone called out from the crowd, "What about the human?" Laughter rippled through the assembly. His mandibles clicked with amusement. "Yes," he said, "let us see what honors the human brings. Surely that magnificent armor holds many great achievements." The crowd parted, creating a path to the front. Eyes from a dozen species turned too, waiting, expecting a joke. Walked forward. His boots sounded heavy on the floor. The damaged armor looked even worse under the bright lights of the memorial wing. Every crack, every burn, every place where different metals had been welded together showed clearly. He stopped at the front and turned to face the assembly. His armor had no kill marks, no crystals, no colors or trophies or displays of conquest. It was plain and broken, a gray shell that looked like it belonged in a scrapyard. But there was one marking, a single symbol carved into the chest plate by hand. The lines were rough, made by a knife, not a machine. It was not beautiful or impressive. It was just a small mark that no one recognized. Leaned forward. "Is that your species' mark for participation?" His voice carried through the hall. "A symbol for showing up." More laughter. Some warriors did not even try to hide their contempt, said nothing. He just stood there, his hands at his sides, looking at something far away that no one else could see. In his mind, he was not in the memorial wing anymore. He was somewhere else, somewhere that smelled like smoke and blood and burning metal. The memory came without warning. It always did. A colony world. The name did not matter anymore. What mattered was the siege. Enemy ships had appeared in orbit without warning. Their ground forces had landed before anyone could evacuate. 48 human soldiers against thousands of enemies with better weapons, better armor, better everything. They had held a hospital, 200 civilians inside. Children, elderly, people who could not run. Remembered the faces of his squad. Who always told bad jokes before a fight. Who was the best shot he had ever seen. Who carried pictures of his family in his helmet, and the medic who saved more lives with her hands than most soldiers took with their weapons. 48 soldiers, 7 days, no reinforcements coming. One by one they fell. On the second day, holding a doorway so others could fall back. On the fourth day, still shooting even as her armor failed. On the sixth day, carrying a wounded civilian to safety when the rockets hit. By the seventh day, only 2 were left, and the enemy had stopped attacking at dawn. They knew it was almost over. They could wait. Had been hit 3 times. She was dying. They both knew it. But she was still moving, still working, using her last hours to help the civilians prepare for what was coming. Had tried to take her place at the defense point. She had stopped him. "You need to live," she said. Her voice was weak but steady. "Someone has to tell them what happened here, what we did, what it cost. I am not leaving you. You are not leaving me, you are taking me with you." She reached for her knife and pressed it into his hand. "Here, carve something into your armor, something that means we were here, that we mattered, that we did not give up." He had not wanted to. He had wanted to fight until there was nothing left. But she looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death, and he understood. This was not about him. It was about everyone who would never know the names of the 47 soldiers who died holding a hospital on a forgotten world. He carved the symbol while she watched, an old word from a language that most humans had forgotten. It meant one simple thing, still standing. Died as the sun came up. The reinforcements arrived 3 hours later. The civilians survived, all 200 of them. Was the only soldier left alive. Now, standing in the memorial wing of the Galactic Coalition, he felt the weight of that symbol on his chest. The weight of 47 names that he carried everywhere he went. Was watching from the side of the hall. She saw his hands trembling, not from fear, not from weakness, from something else. Something that looked like a dam holding back a flood. Was still talking, still mocking. Perhaps human honors are simply too small for us to see. Perhaps they celebrate merely surviving, like prey animals who escape a predator. The laughter continued, but it was quieter now. Some of the warriors had stopped smiling. Something in silence was starting to feel different from embarrassment. Stepped forward. "What does the symbol mean?" she asked, her voice cut through the laughter. "The marking on your chest, it is not decoration, it means something." Looked at her, then he looked at the crowd. At the warriors with their thousands of kill marks and their crystals full of stolen memories and their colors painted in the blood of conquered peoples. "It means still standing," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire hall. "I was not the strongest in my unit. I was not the fastest or the best shot. But I am the one still standing, because someone had to be. Someone had to carry what we did, what we lost, what we gave." He put his hand on the carved symbol. "This is not a mark of victory. It is a mark of duty. A promise to remember the 47 who died beside me so that 200 others could live. I do not wear this armor because it protects me. I wear it because it reminds me what I am protecting." The hall was silent now. Tried to speak, to make another joke, but the words did not come. He had spent his life collecting honors that showed what he had taken. He had never met someone whose honor showed what they had lost. Later that night, found in the memorial wing. He was alone, standing by the window, holding a small piece of paper covered in handwritten names. 47 names, written in ink that was fading from years of being touched. "You carry that with you," she said. It was not a question. "Always." You are the only survivor of your unit. Folded the paper carefully and put it back inside his armor next to his chest. I am not a survivor. A survivor is someone who escaped. I did not escape. I just did not die. He paused. There is a difference. Stood beside him, looking at the stars. Why did Command send you? Really? Because the Coalition needed to see what humans are willing to carry. He touched the carved symbol on his chest. Not what we can conquer, not what we can build or destroy, what we carry, the weight of the people who came before us, the weight of the promises we made, the weight of standing when everything tells us to fall. Is that why you keep the armor, even though it is broken? Was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she had ever heard it. Every scar on this armor is someone I lost. Every crack is a fight I should not have survived. Every burn is a price I paid that I cannot take back. If I wore new armor, clean and perfect, I would be pretending that none of it happened, that they did not matter. He shook his head slowly. I will not pretend, not for anyone, not for any reason. Did not respond. There was nothing to say. Somewhere in the memorial wing, a warrior was looking at his thousands of kill marks and feeling, for the first time, like they weighed nothing at all. The crucible was the final trial. It was the oldest test in the honor trials, the one that mattered most. Two warriors would enter the arena and fight until one could no longer stand. The weapons were set to non-lethal, but the pain was real. The danger was real, and the judgment of the galaxy was watching. Stood at his entrance gate, looking at the arena floor below. It was a simple circle of white stone surrounded by seats that rose up like a mountain. Every seat was filled. Species from across the galaxy had come to watch the final matches. The air itself seemed to hum with their presence. Had come to see him before the fight. Her face was worried, but she tried to hide it. They matched you against, she said. The champion. He has won 37 crucible fights. His armor is 5th-generation military grade. Plasma shields, strength amplifiers, neural-linked weapons. He weighs 4 times what you weigh. Was checking the straps on his armor. One of them had broken, so he tied it with a strip of cloth. I know. The betting pools have you at 200 to 1 odds. No one thinks you can survive more than 30 seconds. Then they will lose money. Grabbed his arm. This is not a joke. He could kill you. The weapons are supposed to be non-lethal, but accidents happen, especially when the crowd wants blood. Looked at her, his eyes were calm, like water that had been still for a very long time. I have fought things that wanted to kill me my entire life. This is not new. Then why? Why enter a fight you cannot win? Because winning is not the point. He finished with his armor and stood up straight. The chest plate creaked. Something inside made a grinding sound. The point is showing up. The point is standing in the arena when everyone expects you to run. Humans have always done this. We face things bigger than us, stronger than us. We face them anyway. The horn sounded. The gates began to open. Walked into the light. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Laughter rose from every section. The human in his broken armor looked even smaller on the white stone, like a child's toy left behind on a battlefield. Some species pointed at him with amusement. Others simply turned away, already bored. On the opposite side of the arena, emerged. He was a monster. Even by standards, he was huge. His armor added another foot to his height and made him twice as wide. The silver metal was covered in kill marks, so many that they seemed to move in the light. His fists were wrapped in power gauntlets that glowed with blue energy. His eyes, visible through his helmet, were fixed on like a predator looking at meat. Little human, said, his voice boomed across the arena. I will try to make this quick, as a kindness. Said nothing. He shifted his weight to his back foot, turned slightly to the side and raised his hands. No weapons, just his fists in worn gloves that had holes in 2 of the fingers. The bell rang. Charged, the ground shook with each step. His power gauntlets came down like hammers, fast enough to shatter stone, hard enough to crush armor into nothing. Was not there. He had moved before his first step finished. Not fast, not flashy, just efficient. He stepped to the right and let this momentum carry him past. One hand touched his arm as he passed, just a light touch, feeling the movement of the joints beneath the armor. Spun and attacked again. Faster this time, more controlled. His fists cut through the air in patterns designed to trap and destroy. wove between them, left, right, back, forward. He moved like he knew where every attack would land before it started, because he did. He had spent his life reading bodies, understanding how muscle and bone and machine worked together. He could see the tiny movements that came before each strike. The crowd's laughter faded. Something was wrong. The human should be paced by now. Instead, he was dancing around the champion like the big warrior was moving through water, roared and activated his plasma shield. A dome of energy surrounded him, expanding outward like a wave. There was nowhere for to dodge. So he did not dodge. He dropped. He hit the ground flat, below the shield's edge, and rolled between its legs before they could look down. When he came up, he was behind his opponent, and his hand shot out to touch a small panel on the back of his armor. A spark, a crack. One of his power gauntlets flickered and died. The crowd went silent. What? Spun around, staring at his dead weapon. How did you? Power coupling, said. He was breathing hard, but his voice was steady. Third-generation flaw. Too much heat buildup in sustained combat. Hit it at the right angle and the whole system overloads. His eyes widened. You know my armor's weaknesses? I know every armor's weaknesses, circled slowly. When you fight without shields, without technology, without anything except your hands and your eyes, you learn to find the cracks. Every piece of equipment has them. Every warrior has them. The more you rely on the machine, the more the cracks show. Attacked again, angrier now, sloppier. Avoided him, touched another panel, and the targeting system went dark. Another touch. The gravity boots failed. Another. The strength amplifiers cut out, leaving in heavy armor with no power to move it. The crowd was on their feet now, not laughing, staring. The human was taking apart this armor piece by piece, using nothing but his hands and his knowledge. But his own armor was failing too. The impacts he had avoided still sent shocks through his equipment. His chest plate's seal broke. His left leg brace cracked and fell away. His helmet's visor went dark. And then, in the middle of the fight, stopped. He reached up to his neck seal and began to unlatch his armor. Stood in the observation deck, her heart stopping. What is he doing? Was beside her, her 4 eyes wide. He is not retreating, he is. She paused, understanding slowly crossing her face. He is removing his weakness. The chest plate came off first. Then the arm guards, then the leg pieces. Stripped away his damaged armor piece by piece, dropping it to the white stone until he stood in just his basic suit. And the crowd saw what was beneath. His body was a map of survival. Burned scars covered his left side from shoulder to hip, the skin puckered and pale. A long surgical scar ran across his stomach where battlefield doctors had rebuilt him from the inside out. His arms were covered in smaller marks, cuts and tears that had healed wrong. His back, visible when he turned, showed shrapnel scars in a pattern that looked like a star. But more than the scars, the crowd saw how he moved now. Without the armor weighing him down, without the broken systems trying to compensate for his movements, he was something else entirely. He was fast. He was fluid. He was every movement optimized by years of fighting for his life against things that should have killed him. Attacked. His remaining power gauntlet swung with all his strength. Caught it! Not blocked, caught. His hands closed around the gauntlet's edge, his feet braced against the stone, and he stopped the blow cold. His muscles stood out like cables. His body shook with the effort, but he held. How? Whispered. You are soft flesh, no armor, no shields, how? Looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much death to fear anything anymore. Because I have been hit by worse than you, he said, and I am still standing. He twisted the gauntlet, found the weak point, and tore it off his hand. The staggered back, now completely without weapons. His armor, without power, was just dead weight dragging him down. He could barely move. Walked toward him slowly. Each step was calm, measured, patient. Tried to fight. He threw punches that slipped under. He tried to grab the human, but was always somewhere else. He tried to use his size, his weight, his remaining strength. None of it mattered. Struck, not with power, but with precision. He hit the joints that were already stressed by heavy armor. He targeted the points where his body met his equipment. He found every crack, every flaw, every weakness that technology could not hide. He fell to his knees, then to his hands, then flat on the white stone. Stood over him, breathing hard, his body glistening with sweat. The arena was completely silent. 10,000 beings from across the galaxy stared at the human who had just defeated a warrior twice his size with his bare hands. For a long moment, nothing moved, then reached down and offered his hand too. "Get up," he said, looked at the hand, then at the human's face. There was no mockery there, no triumph, just respect from one warrior to another. They took the hand and let help him stand. And slowly, starting from somewhere in the upper seats and spreading down like rain, the crowd began to make a sound. It was not laughter, it was not cheering exactly. It was something older, something that every species in the galaxy understood. It was recognition. The human in broken armor, the joke of the trials, had just shown them what they had been missing all along. Some victories were not about power, they were about will, about surviving when everything said you should fall, about standing up when the universe knocked you down and then standing up again and again and again. The armor never made the warrior made the armor. And, standing and unbroken on the white stone, was the most dangerous warrior any of them had ever seen. The Grand Hall was different now. The same crystal walls, the same floating lights, the same thousands of beings from across the galaxy, but the air had changed, the whispers had changed, the way people looked at the human had changed. Stood at the center of the ceremony, his damaged armor back on his body. It looked worse than before. The fight had cracked new pieces, burned new marks into the metal, but he wore it anyway, like he had always worn it, like it was part of his skin. Commander walked toward him across the crystal floor. The general moved differently than he had at the opening ceremony. There was no amusement in his steps now, no superiority in his eyes. He stopped in front of and looked at him for a long moment. "Your equipment was a burden," said, his voice carried through the silent hall. "It slowed you down, it failed you in combat, it nearly cost you the fight." He paused. "Why did you wear it at all?" Every eye in the Grand Hall focused on. Warriors who had laughed at him 3 days ago now waited for his answer. Species who had dismissed humanity as primitive now leaned forward in their seats. Even the delegates who still felt superior knew that whatever the human said next mattered. Touched the carved symbol on his chest. The rough lines that spelled out, still standing in an old human language. "Because my people made it for me," he said. His voice was quiet, but in the silence it reached every corner of the hall. "Because the ones who died beside me wore armor just like it. I do not wear this because it protects me. I wear it to remember that I still have something to protect." Was quiet for a moment. Then he did something that surprised even his own people. He bowed his head, just slightly, in the gesture of respect between equals. "The honor trials test strength," said. "They test speed and tactics and will, but I have been hosting these trials for 40 years, and I have never seen anything like what you showed us." He looked up at the crowd. "This human entered our arena with equipment we mocked. He faced our champions with no shields, no weapons, no advantages of any kind, and he won, not by being stronger, not by being faster, by being something else entirely." "What?" someone called from the crowd, a delegate not, but someone younger, someone who had not laughed as loudly. "What was he being?" "Looked at. Tell them." Turned to face the assembly. The lights caught his armor, showing every crack and burn and weld mark, showing the history of 100 fights written in metal. "Human," he said simply. "I was being human." The word hung in the air. Such a small word, such a young species. A people who had reached the stars while most of the galaxy was already building empires. A people who had no special biology, no ancient technology, no advantages except the ones they made for themselves. Stepped forward from the crowd. The young had been quiet since the fight, watching, thinking. Now she asked the question that many were thinking. "How many battles have you fought like this, outmatched, fighting things that should have destroyed you?" Looked at her. Then he looked at the crowd, at all the warriors in their gleaming armor, at all the delegates with their advanced technology, at all the species who had spent thousands of years building themselves into powers of the galaxy. "Humans have never had a battle where we were not outmatched," he said. "We have never had a fight where the enemy was not stronger. We have been outnumbered, and since the first day we climbed down from trees and realized the world was full of things that wanted to kill us." He paused, letting the words settle. "And yet we are here, standing in your grand hall, competing in your trials, meeting you as equals even when you do not see us that way." He touched his armor again. This is what humans carry, not strength, not technology. We carry the knowledge that we will be knocked down again and again, and we carry the will to stand back up, every time, no matter what. The hall was still silent, but it was a different kind of silence now. Not the silence of mockery. The silence of understanding beginning to grow. Was in the crowd, watching. The delegate who had laughed the loudest mocked the hardest. He looked at the human in broken armor and felt something unfamiliar in his chest. He had conquered worlds. He had built an empire of stolen memories. And this small, soft creature from a small, young world had just made all of it feel hollow. Raised his hand. The Coalition has reviewed Earth's status. Based on the performance shown in these trials, based on the qualities demonstrated by this warrior, we have reached a decision. He turned to face the crowd formally. Earth is elevated from provisional member to full military partner of the Galactic Coalition. Humanity will be granted a permanent seat on the War Council. Their soldiers will be recognized as equals among us. The announcement should have felt like victory. Standing in the diplomatic section, knew how much they had worked for this. How many years of negotiation, how many compromises, how many small humiliations they had endured to reach this moment. But looking at, she realized that the political status did not matter. Not really. What mattered was the look in the eyes of warriors who had spent their lives believing that strength came from power and equipment and conquest. What mattered was that they now understood something new. The champion walked forward through the crowd. His armor had been repaired, but he still moved stiffly from his defeat. When he reached, he stopped. "You could have humiliated me," he said. His voice was rough, but there was no anger in it. "When I fell, you could have stood over me like a conqueror. You could have made me look weak in front of everyone." "That is not why I fight," said. "Why do you fight?" Was quiet for a moment. The question was simple, but the answer was not. He thought about carving a symbol into his armor with her dying hands. He thought about 47 names on a piece of paper next to his heart. He thought about all the times he should have fallen and did not. "Because someone has to stand between the people who cannot fight and the things that want to hurt them," he said finally. "Because every time I survive, I carry something forward, the memories of the ones who did not make it, the hope that maybe someday the fighting will mean something." He looked at. "I do not fight to conquer. I fight so that others do not have to." Stood there for a long moment. Then he did something that made everyone in the hall stare in disbelief. He placed his fist over his chest. The warrior's salute of highest honor, and bowed to a human. "We were wrong to laugh," he said. "I was wrong to think that strength was only what you could see. You have shown me something my people forgot a long time ago, that the will to protect is worth more than the power to destroy." Other warriors began moving forward. Who had competed in the trials, a delegate from a species did not recognize. One by one, they approached the human in broken armor and offered their own gestures of respect. Not all of them, of course, stayed where he was, his mandibles tight. Some species would never see humanity as equals. Some would always look at their young world and their soft bodies and their broken equipment and see only weakness. But enough of them, enough to make a difference. The ceremony ended. The crowds began to move. Warriors and delegates scattered to prepare for their journeys home. But in the center of the grand hall, stood alone, looking at the stars through the crystal walls. "Found him there." "We did it," she said. "Full partner status. A seat on the War Council, everything we wanted." Nodded, but his eyes were still on the stars. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now I go home." He touched his armor, his fingers finding the carved symbol without looking. "I make my report. I tell them what I saw here, what these species are capable of, what we need to prepare for. And then I find the next fight. There is always a next fight." Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question she had been carrying since the first day. "Are you going to repair it? Your armor?" Reached down to the arena floor where his damaged armor had fallen during the fight. The pieces were still there. He picked them up one by one, handling them carefully, gently, like they were made of memory instead of metal. "No," he said. "I am going to keep earning these scars. That is what makes it worth wearing." He walked toward the exit, carrying his broken armor over his shoulder. Warriors from every species stepped aside as he passed, not in fear, not in mockery, in recognition. Humanity had arrived at the galactic stage wearing their wounds openly. They had shown the universe that strength was not about what you carried into battle. It was about what you carried inside yourself, the will to stand when everything told you to fall, the courage to fight when the odds were impossible, the heart to protect what mattered, no matter the cost. At the great doors of the grand hall paused. He looked back at the assembly one last time, at the warriors and the delegates and all the species who had laughed at him 3 days ago. None of them were laughing now. He turned and walked out into the stars, a human in broken armor, carrying the weight of his world on his shoulders, and behind him, in whispers that would spread across the galaxy, in stories that would be told for generations, the universe began to learn a new truth about the small, young species from the small, blue world. They were not strong because of what they had. They were strong because of what they refused to lose. And that, in the end, was the most dangerous thing of all.